So, welcome everyone back to more interviews here at Otaku's Geeks and Imaginative Divisions. Justin here, and today we are covering Holly Shorts, and we have writer director. We have Kristen here. She's going to be talking about her new film, Milk Baby. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's been a hectic week, a lot going on, preparing for the festivals and a lot of great press conversations happening, which is exciting that people are really responding to it and it's striking a chord and definitely provoking some interesting conversations and things to think about.
And I just gotta say, love the short film. This was just beautifully shot. I love the aesthetics, the whole concept of it. And that's my first question. How did this come about? The story, the characters, the setting?
Okay, yes, there's a story. I'll first come into the conception of the story and then I'll talk a little bit more about the visual choices. Um, for me, I'm my brain is hardwired for story. So I'm always have a nose for it. I'm always looking. And the concept for horror in this space came to me after discovering the world of dairy and the contrast between what's presented on milk cartons with cows frolicking through fields with their babies and the actual reality and the disconnect that so many consumers and as consumers and just members of society as a whole that we're, not really understanding at all where this product is coming from and what the cost of it is to, other sentient beings. And so it was there, but usually in my process, a concept will come to me and then I recognize its value as a filmmaker and a storyteller. Then something will happen in my own life that pushes up the ante on it. And that for me was my experience as a mother, as a first time mother. I wrote this in year one after giving birth. Motherhood again is something in our society, whether it's through consumerism or influencers, that again has a strange parallel where there's all these fantasies kind of thrust upon us. And then there's these darker realities that no one's talking about. And the juxtaposition of that to me is so unsettling and horrifying because there's this element of beauty and then this darkness underlying all of it. And I think that to me became just a universal theme that I saw and a connection point. And so having this experience myself emotionally was what gave me the impetus to actually humanize this horror concept and not make it something that's just for shock value, but actually is a story that has deep themes and layers and questions. Of course, our, media goal is to make a great film and entertainment, and that has to always lead. But I think there's a world where you can subtly infuse really important themes and let the viewers have their own experience and ask questions without preaching. It just organically happens when you walk that line between entertainment, art, and social impact in a way that's still engaging. And listen, you don't need to know all the deeper themes to be able to understand the movie and engage with it. But for those who want it, it's there. If they want to go deep, if they want to find these Easter eggs. In terms of the aesthetic, I from very early on in the script, I knew visually what I wanted. I'm a very visual writer. The floral dresses were there from day one in the script. And this wheel, this carousel. And because I think I was really influenced by Rosemary's Baby when I was
Mhm.
younger. Um, the juxtaposition, I really redefined what horror looked like. Here we have, on the surface, a very dark story, a woman's being sacrificed to the devil for her husband's career advancement, which I think in itself really is satire of the era, the subjugation of women and the patriarchal control, loss of identity. Does every audience member go that deep with it? They don't have to, but it's there if they want to. But the visual look of it, the contrast between the beauty of the aesthetics of the film with the dark subject matter that was really playing and how unsettling that was really struck a chord with me, that horror. And so that's more supernatural. This is sci-fi, but it doesn't have to look dark and ugly. That's maybe what's more unsettling about it, that we're in this kind of sugar-coated nightmare. And thematically, the aesthetic is interesting. Like I'm attracted to a period visually, but I
Mm.
never do anything just because I like the way it looks. It has to have thematic resonance. And I was like, we're in a world where these dark realities are being obscured by these fairy tales and lies, and everyone trying to make everything look beautiful to distract from what's really happening. Someone actually looked at it and looked, it could be like an Amazon, a dystopian Amazon ad for some strange service that they're trying
Yeah.
to peddle as like totally normal, and what we're willing to normalize when it looks beautiful and we present it in a certain way, in a certain light. And it's so relevant to our own world that that's what makes it so unsettling. Versus you could do a version of this where it was, more barnyard and dark. But I knew that that was not going to be the right aesthetic for it. And then also I did like playing with the audience's sense of time. Or is this past, present, or future? So a lot of the design was a meld of vintage, late 60s, early 70s, and then this futuristic kind of marriage. That's what I had to explain to almost every department head because we don't, when you're creating sci-fi and building a world from scratch, which this is, like the costumes, the room, it's all built, all custom made. You're just relying on your imagination. So a lot of it. And when you're exploring a new aesthetic, that can be really challenging too, to really find it. But we had such a deep understanding of that core vision and what we were trying to do that it came together and it worked. And so people feel like, oh, is it the past? And then the reveal that it's kind of this near future dystopia um, catches some people by surprise.
And I will have to say I was one of those people because I was watching this and with the aesthetic, with the whole setup, especially with Case character, I was like, okay, this seems to be maybe past modern day. But then when I'm not gonna spoil it, but when the end and everything else is revealed, I was like, oh, okay, this is this is where we're going. And just the way it was shot and the way Kay's character was, and I was watching this and I was just like, okay, the whole maternity ward, the way it was like this kind of nursery for them, and then when you see the ending, it's like, oh, this is where the farming and it was just brilliant. Really enjoyed that part. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, I really did because like just the ending and the reveal, and it was like I'm not this is one shot I do want to talk about, but it's kind of a spoil. Is the creepy? I'll just put it this way. The whole shot when she's looking in the
Yes.
hole, like
Big
yes,
reveal of I would call it now the scale of the
yes,
operation that Kay has been trafficked into. And that mimics, again, a lot of it's drawn from without giving too much away, from an
yeah,
actual reality that exists, which is really terrifying because it's like, okay, if, that need was created, if for some reason there was a baby formula shortage. I've actually just had this conversation. People are like, I could totally see at-risk women with
hmm
being trafficked into these situations and presented as something completely different, and the goop mom buying it and thinking it's great. But that shot, yeah, that shot. So I'm a person who's like, in general, is like go big or go home. All my films, people are like, I don't know if you're gonna be able to pull that off. Like my first film, they were like, that's a lot for a first time director. But I'm in the mind of I just always go for it, and I don't let other people place limitations. But for this one, I was like, wait, how are we gonna achieve this scale on a short film budget? And the build and the questions. And so that's when this film leaned into VFX and embraced it, and actually think was a more environmentally conscious choice as well to create less waste. So we were able to build one of these carousel wheels and then replicate it. So instead of building so many of them, which would just be thrown into a dumpster, we were able to create, one live build of it and then mimic that. And that was great. I got to work with a really amazing um, visual VFX supervisor, Lee Stringer, who has, worked from anywhere from Disney, FX, like huge, Lucasfilms projects. So it was a real level up for me to understand how to achieve this type of shot. And then also my cinematographer, John Kang, this is our second collaboration. And he understands my mind so well. And he even encouraged me. He's like, don't write it small. Like, don't let's not like, write it smaller or reduce the scale because we're afraid we can't finance it. Like, let's figure out how to realize the vision that you want. So this one, we just thought big and we went for it. And the right people showed up. We had a lot of sponsorships as well. Panavision sponsored us. Formosa Studios. I mean, our sound design was done by Chris Battaglia, who's won an Emmy for The Last of Us. Caleb Hollenbach was our sound mixer, who has worked on Game of Thrones. Like a lot of people jumped on board this project for little to nothing because they believed in the vision. And creatively, we're just like, I want to jam on this with you. Like, this is such exciting material and the aesthetic. And so that, went a long way too. But there was a lot of like heart attack moments along the way
Of
where
course.
where I was like, wow, I'm really in pretty deep. Like, this really was more prep than some indie features, according to department heads who are well into their feature careers. So it was a great boot camp for my, when I moved next to a feature, in terms of just what was the demands were and the challenges of building a world from scratch. Even the costumes were custom designed. Um, like we just completely went for it. But again, I'm a go big, go home. And I knew it was a risk. I was like, this will either come together, especially when you're doing a stylized film, it will either come together and be amazing. There's no in the middle, or it will be a complete disaster. Um, but I am always of the mind to take the risk, follow your vision, don't compromise. There's always a way. And the more passionate you are about your vision, the more excited and inspired other people become. Everyone on the set was super inspired. Like even the truck driver was like, I would work for free on this. I'm so inspired. Everyone understood the story. That's really important to me too, as a director, to intersect with every single person on set, whether it a PA, whoever, because you're nothing without your team.
Hmm.
Um, and I really like people to understand what they're making, to feel valued, to feel inspired. And in that way, they bring their best work because they really feel like they're a part of something versus, a cog in the filmmaking machine.
And my final two questions, I'll put it into one. You're
Okay.
wearing multiple hats in this, so you're writing and directing. Which one would you say requires a little bit more time and more attention? Is it like formatting the story or bringing that story to life behind the lens? And the second question will be, what would you hope the audience takes from this after watching the film?
Yes. You know, no job is easy. Writing is its own inferno. But it's so critical. Of course, you want to be open once. So because everything I've directed, I've also written. So I always try to keep some distance once the script is done as a director to be like, what if someone presented this to me, to be open to different ideas. But usually when I write something, I have a pretty strong vision of what I want it to look like. And that is an arduous process. I think I wrote this and we were going into production like 2 months later. It was very fast and I was just, developing it so much myself. So there was rewrites happening as I was also directing because like this is what's available for the set, or this like shooting, or we can't get this and there's this restriction. So you're going to need to, adjust this. You need to remain flexible. I think putting the work into the script, though, when it's so like people read it, was so clear, the vision, the story, you're setting yourself up in a great way as a director. Because when there's problems in the script, it does not get better when you're shooting. The holes and the problems only become more amplified. So I always advise people, because so many people just want to get through the writing process, put the time in, and the shooting process will be so much more smooth and yield a better result because you can't hide from the holes once you're there. Everyone will see them. Your department heads will start being like, oh, like what's so directing on this though, I would say in this one case, writing was the easier task because of the scale of the world we wanted to build, the cost. doing everything custom. And then also because there's no references. I mean, yes, we had some film references, of course, like Rosemary's Baby, but so much of it was a different aesthetic that was in my brain. I literally feel like I made 10,000 decisions. I'm very hands-on down to like the color of the carpet, like little tiny details. I'm in all the way. And so I actually had like a moment of decision fatigue when this film was over, where I was like, I can't even choose if I want what kind of coffee I want today. Like my brain is just, there's a lot. This was a lot to take on in terms of the world building. I'm very hands-on in managing my departments and making sure everything's flowing and people are vibing. And then guiding a performance like this is also a very heavy weight, especially, when someone's inhabiting a very dark space, being able to hold space for them and be a support system for them as an actor. And I'm very protective of my actors always and making sure that they're comfortable and that they feel seen and heard and that they always feel safe on set. So it was directing in this case, because writing, sometimes I'm like, it's hellish, but this was not, it was just a lot to contend with. So but it was worth it. It's always worth it in the end when you get to the other side.
And can you tell us where people can follow you, keep up to date with any of your projects, and
Yes.
obviously,
Yeah, for this film, so I don't do personal Instagram. It's
yeah,
just like choice, but I have Instagrams for my films and we'll continue. The socials at Milk Baby Film. There is a feature in the works too for this. I have actually two other features that I'm working on with two different production companies, all in this kind of elevated sci-fi thriller horror space. I'm really excited about that. That's the writing journey. But yes, we can follow the journey of this from, I hope, from short to feature on Milk Baby Film. That's the handle on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, hopefully this is just the opening act, but again, something that can stand for itself too.
thank you, Kristen. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.